If you are doing this, you are far less likely to be successful with your business, whether it's an agency, a coaching business, or whatever it is. If this thing is prevalent in your life, you're going to always struggle to succeed. And if you're not where you want to be, this is probably a very big reason of that. I'm going to explain what it is. Let's get started. Right then. So in the 1st century CE, so 100 CE or something like this was back in the Roman days, there was a dude called Juvenal. Now I might be mispronouncing that, but Juvenal. And Juvenal came up with a quote that said, "Give them bread and circus and they will never revolt." Brownie points if you understand what this means. Here's how your life works. This is you, right? You know I love my stick diagrams. You know I'm getting better at drawing them by the day. But here's the thing. You have your goal, right? And here is your goal over here. We'll draw it as a star. This could be 10 grand a month. It could be, maybe you want to be maybe you want abs. Maybe you want a 10 out of 10 girlfriend. I don't care, right? You've got goals, right? Anything you want. And you're trying to move on a time trajectory towards this goal. But then here's the thing they don't tell you, the dark side of life, is that down here, right, we have what I'm going to call a black hole. And there's probably quite a few of them. Black holes, just holes of darkness. Now, we know the nature of a black hole is it has a gravitational pull, and this is what I'm going to explain. So, bread and circus, well, what does this mean? How does this quote in any way, shape, or form relate to this? So the idea here is that this is like a conspiracy theory against the government. If the government feeds the nation and entertains them, they will be the nation or the population will be too occupied with the food and will be slowed down by all the bread and the food, and they've got all the entertainment. So like their Maslow's hierarchy of needs are met. They're never going to revolt. They're never even going to think to question the autocratic government. They're just going to do what they want. Now, here's how this works with your life. And I'm not saying there's a conspiracy with the government's out to get you. I'm using the quote as a point of authority to draw this point home. In your life, you have black holes and you must close them. Please don't take that out of context and clip me. I'm hoping you understand this. Your energy and your time to get to your goal needs to be invested on this trajectory. But what most people end up doing is they have 1, 2, or 3, maybe 4, 5 black holes in their life where their time and energy gets sucked into these things. Let me give you an example. Gender. This one got me real bad recently. Anything like gender or politics or ideology. These are some big ones right now that are getting people. If you are, right, this is what I did, right? For about 3 days, when I was in Stockholm, in Sweden, I saw a video on gender identity and gender politics and stuff, and all of this stuff. Now, I don't really care now. But at the time, I got all invested in this. I started watching interviews and documentaries and listening to different sides of the argument. I began polarizing on one side of the argument. And I started to just get this thing. And then I realized that what had happened in my life is that a black hole had opened. Wherever your energy is going somewhere and your time is going somewhere that is not in the direction of your goal, then you have a black hole in your life. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's say that you're into horse riding. Let's say you're into horse riding and every Saturday afternoon, you go and you ride your horse because you love it and you have great fun. This is not necessarily a black hole. If horse riding, it takes all of your attention and time all the time, every day, all day, and it's constantly in the back of your mind, you're constantly thinking about it, and you constantly see it, and you go on social media to see it, then maybe it's a black hole. But you can have hobbies without them being black holes. But a black hole is something that basically just consumes you. And so for a few days, I was looking into gender. I watched What is a Woman, the documentary. I watched one of these HBO documentaries on gender, and I was like, yeah, and then you start getting passionate and polarized and shit. And then I just realized, I was like, holy shit, like studying this and researching this whole gender argument does not in any way, shape or form move me towards my goal. And this brings me back to the quote. And this is when I remembered what Juvenal said, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, or her, who knows, I'm fucking with you. Or they, whatever. No, but this brings me back to the quote. Give them bread and circus, they will never result. What is gender politics? It is circus. Think about the government's incentive. Now, I'm not saying the government is out to get anyone, but how does a government and how has an empire or a government controlled its population? It is created drama and polarizing drama so that people spend their time and effort and energy focusing on the drama, not focusing on their work and building themselves so that they can create lives that the government cannot control and that the individual can control. So if you want to build a life you can control, you have to make money, you have to become healthy and fit and all this stuff. And so your time and energy needs to go into control because the government ultimately a government wants control. And so when like there's an incentive for them to do so, they will infuse drama into the fabric of society, full well knowing that the human condition and the human nature will just latch onto that drama, polarize itself, and then basically argue over literally kind of just nothing. And for as long as people are arguing over this stuff, and for as long as you are spending your time watching documentaries, reading books, YouTube videos, podcasts on these things and getting all passionate and worked up and emotional and polarized, for as long as that's consuming your attention and energy, you cannot put time, effort, and energy into this. Because if you're watching a documentary on gender politics, you cannot be making cold calls to build your business, right? It's a very simple idea. But that's the thing, is it's not just the first order consequence of the action. It's a second order consequence of losing your ability to think critically, falling prey to groupthink, becoming emotional and letting your emotions drive you. There's nothing good about it. This is why one thing that's a concurrent theme on my channel is I don't really hold opinions on much. There's not many things that, like, if someone's like, is this good or bad? I'm like, well, it's not good or bad as a spectrum, right? Nothing's good or bad. It's how good or how bad. And then maybe I'll make a decision, but sometimes, most of the time, I just won't care. Like, ask yourself, in the last couple of weeks, what, like, black holes, they open and they close. So sometimes, like, you know, maybe there's like a piece of ideology that will open up, and then everyone will be getting angry about it on social media, and then you'll get angry about it on social media, and then before you know it, like, you spend like half your day like researching this stuff. Because here's the thing about these black hole ideologies, they become very, very addictive. Because if you believe something, if you start to polarize and believe something, there is nothing more rewarding to the human mind and nothing more gratifying to your ego than seeking information that confirms what you already believe to be true. Because what you're doing here, let's say that you take the stance of, on the gender thing, that there's only two genders, or let's say you take the opposite stance that there's as many as you want. If you spend your day affirming that belief, it's pleasurable because it affirms that you believe you are right. And truth is, once again, there's no right or wrong. It's how right or how wrong are you against the objective nature of the universe. Be very careful of this, because these are circuses, these things. Politics is another example, you know. Oh, like China's really worrying me recently. Like, I don't know what we're going to do about China. And another black hole, right, over here that everyone seems to be thinking about is the recession. Think it through with me for a very split second here. Where do we hear about recessions? Where do we hear about gender? Where do we hear about politics? Where do we hear about ideology and things that piss us off? We hear them from the news or social media, which actually people don't realize this is just a form of news, but it's individualized news, right? Who controls the news? The government. Who controls the algorithm? Social media companies. Social media companies and algorithms have a natural built incentive to show you things that you agree with, to keep you hooked. These things, they open up in your life and they will just suck your time and energy away. And so the most efficient way to get to your goal is to invest as much energy and time into this goal as humanly possible. But if you've got all of these black holes that are sucking your energy and time in the opposite direction, you're moving away and regressing away from the very thing that you actually want, purely because you're focusing on something that doesn't even matter. Why do you care about gender? Now, that's a bold statement. Maybe you do. This is the thing. I thought this through. I was like, okay, if I have a child and it then decides that it wants to transition from boy to girl or girl to boy, then I will start studying gender. And then I'll start looking into it, because then it actually impacts my life and matters. That's a bold statement to say, because everyone's like, oh, well, like, there's people, like, people can be whatever the fuck they want. I don't care. Like, but just don't tell me, you know, what I should say and what I shouldn't say, and don't try and force your ideas onto me. And I don't care. I couldn't care less what you do. That's the thing. That's the attitude you need to have, instead of getting your ego involved. Because the more ego you have down here, the less thought process you can have up here, which is all that matters. All right. So just think about this. Be careful. Get rid of these black holes. Stop giving a shit about them. Resign to the fact that you don't care, and just move on with your goal. And this is how you become successful. It's just singular focus on one thing. Doesn't matter what, you know, Ben Shapiro's saying. It doesn't matter who's getting cancelled. It doesn't matter, you know, what Bud Light's doing with their advertising. It doesn't matter what documentary is trending on a topic. Just fucking focus. Because the thing with these black holes is all it's going to take is one piece of stimulus. Think about this, me with this gender thing. For 3 days, I was consumed by this stupid shit. And all it took was me to see like one tweet or one YouTube video, and then bang, the algorithms caught me. And then I continuously get recommended, and it just flywheels, and then I become polarized, and then I'm like, hang on, what the hell am I doing? Just be careful. By the way, if you need more help getting clients, and if you're struggling to book appointments, there's a link in the description. My product solves that. I don't care if you buy it or not. I don't care if you click it or not, but it is there. Check it out if you want to. Goodbye.